Lokati here. Today we're going to be going over our Gemma 3 Flame of Pleasure. This is a projectile-based burning shot build that utilizes ranged weapons instead of spells. And so it's a little bit out of the ordinary for Frostfire Gemma Flame of Pleasure, but it has been a lot of fun to play. We're on day 2 on the build, essentially, so the gear is still massively in progress. But on day 2, we have completed all of our T7 maps so that we can fight the Traveler. So we're going to go ahead and kill the last T7 boss here. And then we're going to kill the Traveler. And then we're going to take a shot at a T8. See how she does. And then we're going to go over the build. Hello, Sir Realm Lordy guy. Let's roll. Come on. Flippy flippy. Let's do this thing. Playstyle is pretty straightforward. You're just going to use your dash to buff your shots and use your buff shots to apply ignites on the target. You do need to sit inside of the Starwalker area of effect in order to maximize the damage of your ignite. All of our damage is coming from ignite, and we're doing pure dot DPS as opposed to reap DPS. Now that being said, we do reap a little bit, but the build's primary focus is not on the reaping. And so we're going to focus more on additional ignite damage, dot damage, and affliction effect. Ignite has a base affliction effect bonus, which scales really nicely with it. And then we are life-based with tenacity blessings so that we have a little bit more defenses than most builds are going to have at this gear level, which is nice. We can take a few hits, and we've got reasonably good recovery with life regain as well as life regeneration. And the Traveler is dead. Thank you for my echo, sir. Let's go see what pedigree we got. It's the most fun about leveling a new character. Seeing if you got trash or treasure. Formless. That's pretty garbage. It's worth 5 Flame Elementium to someone. Now, let's see, do we have any T8 marks? We do. So T8, collect some more map beacons. Our survivability is a little bit low for the recommended, but at 32k, not too shabby. Our damage is solid for entering into this T8 here. We've got really good clear still, and elites die in just a few seconds. Obviously, that damage can scale up a little bit higher. Our survivability is not too bad so far. Those Resident Eyes have been the #1 moneymaker for this character so far. Every piece of gear that he has acquired has been acquired through the sale of Resident Eyes. They're very profitable right now, and I think are a really good, solid way to scale your character up in currency as you're leveling them. Alternatively, save them, spend them if you're good at Missville, Missville is always profitable. As you can see, we take quite a few hits fairly well without stressing too much, and we have a ton of recovery from life regain as well as regeneration through rejuvenation and base regeneration through tenacity stacks. We're also massively overcapped on our resistances right now with room to grow in our gear. And so as our currency gets up, we do have the option of using more damage. Ooh, that laser though. We have the ability to use more damage-oriented gear later on. And T8 finished. 1 death. We did dash into a laser, so that's not entirely Gemma's fault. We'll call that pilot issues. Let's go take a look and see what our standing DPS on a dummy is right now. Somewhere around 130 million DPS, with spikes up to about 176 million DPS. So not too shabby. We have a mix of T2 and T3 gear and some unfinished gear, and a unique in here that we'll take a look at here shortly. So, first things first is our active skills. We are running Burning Shot with Cataclysm, GMP, additional Ignite, added fire damage, and Reaping Agony. This has been a very good setup for us so far, and so I'm very happy with this. You do have a few options. If you want to go with regular multiple projectiles, you can pick up some additional damage at the downside of some clear, and you could not run Reaping Agony and instead run a higher damage effect over here if you wanted to. Soul Candles, we just have some generic fire damage soul candles, nothing fancy there. We are running Aim with Preparation, Extended Duration, and Well-Fought Battle. So we have very high uptime on Aim. We are running Elemental Destruction with Preparation, Terrain of Malice, Increased Area, and Extended Duration. So we have very high uptime and very high area on Elemental Destruction. We are running Stalwalker with Activation, Medium Elite, Mass Effect, and Well-Fought Battle for very high uptime on Starwalker. And then we are using Centralized Loading with Magic Dash, Cooldown Reduction, and Quick Mobility for damage and movement. For our auras, we're running Flame Imbue. I was playing around with Ice Imbue. It doesn't give us the effect that I wanted it to. Flame Imbue is the correct one. Rejuvenation with Amp Restrain, Precise Projectiles with Amp Restrain, and Swiftness with Amp and Restrain. Now we're probably not going to see a big difference in our damage here with Flame Imbue up. Flame Imbue does primarily gives us more clear, but we do get a little bit of additional damage because it does give us some basic night damage. And so this gets our base damage up to about 140 to 150 million DPS as opposed to what we were doing before. So Flame Imbue is definitely the best choice right there. For our items, we are running a Sun's Embrace. This is a requirement for the Ignite limit. We are running a Marksman's Bracers as well. This is primarily for the additional clear from the +2 jumps. Now, alternatively, you could run Rare Gloves with much more damage and much more survivability, and instead move Jump over onto your skill itself without a significant loss in damage and probably a little bit better clear. But this was a really cheap solution to getting Jump on the character while we farmed up some more currency. Our necklace, we're running Max Life, Dexterity, and all stats. It should also have damage right here. But the game doth not want to give it to us. And still does not. And then we'll be running resistances here even though our resistances are already capped and capped higher, with Tenacity Blessing, it'll be nice to be able to move some other stuff around as we get different gearing opportunities. Our belt running max life dex damage, reap when inflicting ignite, affliction effect, and resistance. Our rings are dex damage, life, affliction effect, and resistances. And our bow is fizz damage, fire damage, gear fizz damage, projectile damage, and elemental damage. One thing to note here, gear physical damage is a damage increase for us. However, physical damage is not a damage increase for us. Our skill converts all of our gear physical damage over to fire and then adds the gear physical and the fire damage to our ignite. However, this does not work. So you do want to run projectile damage and elemental damage. Now I'm running life regain on here because I needed some recovery, but I'm also making a new weapon over here as we get the currency to make this thing, which will have gear fizz damage, fire, and fizz damage here. And then we'll have main hand weapon based to ignite damage, a better roll ideally later on. And then elemental damage here. And then again, we're going to have affliction effect over here. And so we'll have to make a decision whether we want to run gear physical damage or we want to run affliction effect, because you can only have 2 T2s. And so I am playing around with a musket to see how we can get that to be a better option than the longbow here. You can also use one-handers, same idea as the musket over here. There's a lot of different weapons, ranged weapons that you can use to gear it. For leveling, I use a Scorching Wave, which was a phenomenal way to level the character and gives you basically a weapon that you can use from level 12 until you get into the mapping in the nether realm there. Now for our chest, surprise, surprise, we are running max life damage and dex as well as affliction effect and resistances. And our boots, max life dex and damage along with affliction and resistances and move speed here. So gearing is fairly straightforward. For our talent tree, we're running God of Might, Warlord, and Psychic. On God of Might, we're coming all the way over here for attack skill level and additional fire damage for the next main skill every 1 second. So that does scale very, very well with our fire damage from our ignites. We're running great strength for additional attack damage and additional ailment damage. You would probably be better off running blazing fire until you get psychic and you have the affliction per second over here. Once you get psychic and the affliction per second, then you can switch back over to great strength from blazing fire. We're also running tenacity, which gives us 100% chance to get Tenacity Blessing when hitting an enemy and max Tenacity Blessing stacks. And we're getting some scaling from Tenacity Blessing on our life regen here, as well as scaling on our Elemental Pin. And the Warlord Tree. Warlord Tree. We are running Starfire, which is absolute requirement for the build. And we are running Rock, which is our 3% fire penetration every stack of Tenacity Blessing. Very good. So we do have the option of stacking Tenacity Blessings, both for the base 4% damage reduction that we get, as well as the 3% fire pin and the regeneration, and giving us strong defenses and offenses all in one blessing. That is very easy for us to cap here. On our Warlord tree, we're rushing over here to inflict 1 additional stacks of Ignite. This just makes it so that we inflict 3 stacks of Ignite every time we hit. We have 3 stacks of Ignite maximum, and then all of our temporary bonuses will apply to all 3 of those stacks. So it works out very, very well. We're getting another max Tenacity Blessing stack down here, and more Affliction effect up here, which is very important. Also gives us some more Affliction per second, so we get that Affliction per second much higher. On Psychic over here, we are taking more with less, which is additional dot damage at the sake of duration. Duration is fine. Ignite has a very long base duration. And we're getting Affliction per second and additional Affliction % effect right here, which is very, very strong. Now, later on, we do have the option of maybe switching this over to Daze and then scaling additional ailment damage with blur effect through various different methods. But we're going to stick with that for right now and worry about that kind of scaling later on. We are getting -% resistance when the enemy has max affliction here, additional damage against cursed enemies here. Blinded enemies are unable to land a critical strike, which is a very, very good defense. This also gives us blinding on hit, which allows us to get 72% damage to enemies that are affected by weaken. And we have weaken. Ooh, we don't. Crossbow freeze paralysis, knockback, weaken, slow taunt. Oh, blinding. Sorry, blinding is our crowd control effect, which we get from this blinding on hit over here. And so all that works out pretty good as far as the psychic goes. Now, my slates are terrible. There's not. I didn't find a single good slate, a maybe slate, an okay slate. This one is like Ellie Res, Pertinacity Blessing. These are all terrible slates. Slates you want to look for are plus skill levels or reaping cooldown recovery, things that can enhance affliction effect, and things that are going to affect ignites or fire damage. All of those are really good choices for slates. All of these slates are terrible. We got what we got, and our currency went more into crafting our gear than it did go into getting more slates for us. And as far as our hero traits go, we are running damage right here, although we'd probably be better off with a dex one, but I don't have a dex memory that I've received yet. Here we are running armor. I think armor is the best choice. Max life could be a second choice for you. And here we are running movement speed, of course, and then something else useful here would be good. This movement speed with 21% damage is better than the one that we currently had right there. For our hero trait memories, your choice here, Infernal Damnation, makes Purgatory more effective, and Dress Liquor makes Purgatory more effective again. This level 10 Scorch casts 1 additional curses. It's a big maybe, but you get this massive penalty to enemies that are very close to you, and then you got this weird dead zone you got to stay out of, and so I'm not a big fan of that. And then Flames of Desire is just bad. We don't need that recovery. So Infernal Damnation and Dress Liquor would be your choices here. And that is going to be our Flame of Desire Gemma 3. She has been very fun to play. She's solid. She's tanky. She does a lot of damage. I think the next step would be to get some sort of activation medium on Burning Shot, because stopping to cast it is not very comfortable, and everybody likes automation. And then getting our slate squared away with ideally some plus skill level to our primary ability, and that would be a huge damage bonus to us, as that's 12% multiplicative per skill level on that. I would imagine that Burning Shot is also a relatively cheap level 21 skill, because there's not going to be a lot of people utilizing this skill. Go take a look. $21's for 4 FE. That's pretty cheap. So really easy way to boost our damage significantly by getting that. We were doing 140-ish to 150-ish before. We were using a level 20. Get a level 21 going. Nice little 150 to 160 up to almost 170 there. Those are some good numbers. Very solid build. If you have any questions over the build, just drop a comment down below. Come by Twitch and ask questions. I'm happy to help out. If you are playing Flame of Pleasure Gemma and you're using a different build, I know Malice is popular right now, Chain Lightning is popular right now, and you're struggling with the build, come by and let me know. If you understand how the scaling works for your character, it is much easier to get the right gear and get everything put together. And I'm happy to take a look at whatever you're playing and see what we can do to help you get on the road to having fun with the game. Thank you very much. Y'all have a wonderful day.